Apple Podcast title, Deep Dive, Holy Cross Wilderness, Colorado Hiking Dangers and Majestic Peaks. Apple Podcast description. In this deep dive, we unpack the breathtaking but unforgiving terrain of the Holy Cross Wilderness. Nestled within Colorado's White River National Forest and San Isabel National Forest, this 122,797-acre wilderness area boasts 164 miles of trails and the iconic 14,005-foot mound of the Holy Cross. But it's not just about the stunning views from Notch Mountain. We explore the critical importance of wilderness survival, risk management, and why unprepared hikers frequently find themselves in danger. Whether you're navigating the Lake Charles Trail or gazing at Mystic Island Lake, join us as we synthesize the history, the trails, and the hidden risks of one of Colorado's most majestic protected areas. Apple Podcast description.
Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome into another custom-tailored deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Our mission today, and I know you, our listener, love getting to the core of a topic quickly but thoroughly. Our mission is to explore a really fascinating stack of sources we've got regarding a stunning but honestly deceptively dangerous slice of the American West.
Right, the Holy Cross Wilderness in Colorado. Right?
Exactly, and it's just this massive expanse. It encompasses Eagle, Lake, and Pitkin counties.
It really is huge. And what we're going to look at today, alongside the facts and the trail names, is this overarching theme of, well, the duality of nature.
Yeah.
Because on one hand, you have this awe-inspiring beauty, right? But on the other, it just has this absolute lack of mercy for anyone who goes in unprepared.
It is entirely indifferent to your survival.
Completely.
So to give you a sense of the sheer scale we are talking about here, it was established in 1980.
Mm-hmm.
And it spans an incredible 122,797 acres.
Which is almost 500 square kilometers for those tracking the metrics.
Yeah, 496.94 square kilometers to be exact. It's massive. And it features 164 miles of trails.
And you have to consider where it sits geographically, too.
Right. It's near some really well-known Colorado hubs.
Yeah.
Leadville, Minturn.
Edwards.
Yep. Eagle and Vail, just
Yeah.
straddling the San Isabel and White River National Forests.
Which is an important detail, because having those civilized, bustling cities right on the edge of the wilderness creates a sort of cognitive dissonance.
How so?
Well, you might be drinking a latte in Vail, and an hour later you're stepping into this untamed ecosystem. It's easy to forget you've crossed a major threshold.
That's a great point. But here's where it gets really interesting. The namesake of this entire massive area.
The Mount of the Holy Cross.
Yes, it's a 14,005-foot peak.
A classic Colorado 14er.
Right, which is a huge draw on its own. Bagging a 14er is a big deal.
Yeah.
But there's this literal cross formation on the mountain that gives it its name.
What's fascinating here is how a single geographical feature like that becomes this powerful magnet for human exploration.
It's just two deep snow-filled crevices.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. They intersect on the eastern face, and long after the summer sun melts the snow off the rest of the rock, those couloirs stay packed with white snow against the dark gray stone.
Which creates that iconic image.
Right, and it's been drawing people in for over a century. It's almost like a site of pilgrimage.
But the funny thing I found of the sources is that if you actually climb the Mount of the Holy Cross, you can't really see the cross.
No, you're standing on it.
So the sources point out that Notch Mountain is actually the prime spot.
Notch Mountain is the viewing platform. That's where all the backpackers and day trippers go.
Just to get that crystal clear, perfectly framed view of the cross formation.
Human beings have this intense desire to witness these monuments with our own eyes. We'll endure quite a bit of physical hardship just to stand on Notch Mountain and look across the valley.
Yeah. And to really give you a sense of scale, we have to look at the broader Colorado context in our source material.
The list of protected areas in the state is just staggering.
It really is. Holy Cross isn't just an isolated park. It's part of this enormous statewide commitment to conservation.
It's a piece of a much larger ecological puzzle.
Right, because you have massive national parks right nearby,
Yeah.
relatively speaking, like Rocky Mountain and Mesa Verde.
And national monuments like Browns Canyon.
Not to mention the dozens of state parks. The sources list areas stretching from the Arkansas headwaters to the Yampa River.
Which means you have this deeply interconnected web of wilderness.
And that isolation brings us to the dark side of that beauty.
The risk.
Exactly. Because with that level of vast, uninterrupted nature comes very serious danger. The sources are incredibly specific about this warning. The Holy Cross Wilderness has a pretty grim history of hikers becoming endangered.
And we really need to break down why that happens, because it's rarely some unavoidable freak accident.
What is it usually then?
It's unfamiliarity with wilderness risks. People go in lacking adequate equipment, they don't have the essential supplies for emergency
They
conditions.
just assume it's going to be a casual hike.
Exactly. Critical thinking is essential out there. The tragedies we see are largely due to a complete lack of basic risk management and preparation.
And the sources gave some really chilling, real-world examples to back that up.
They did.
There was this incident in 2007. A lost hiker was up there, the weather turned, and he literally had to brave the wind and freezing cold, huddled inside a cave just to survive.
At 14,000 feet, the weather doesn't just shift. It violently attacks you.
And then there was the 2010 case.
That one is heartbreaking.
Yeah, missing hiker in that rugged terrain, and the situation got so bad, they actually had to call off the search.
Which is the hardest call a rescue team can make. But when the terrain and weather get that bad, the rescuers' lives are at severe risk too.
So think about that for a second. Have you ever thought a wilderness hike was just going to be a casual walk in the park, just a few hours out and back?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, our modern world really lulls us into a false sense of security.
We think our phones will always work.
Right. We forget that the wilderness is completely indifferent to our presence. Thorough research and reasonable planning are literally the only shields we have.
So assuming you are prepared, assuming you've got your gear and your emergency plan, what does this all mean for the actual hiking?
Oh, the trail network is phenomenal if you respect it.
Yeah, I want to map this out a bit because there's an incredible variety of trails mentioned in the sources.
Where should we start?
Well, there's the Nolan Lake Trail,
A classic route.
and then the Lake Charles Trail, which takes you out to Lake Charles and Mystic Island Lake.
Which is just a stunning high-altitude destination.
Then you've got the New York Mountain Trail and the Dead Dog Trail, which honestly, that name is so evocative.
It is. The names really tell a story. When early explorers or rangers name a route Dead Dog, they aren't trying to be cute.
It's a warning.
Exactly. It tells you immediately about the steep grades and the punishment your body is going to take.
The sources also list Beaver Lake Trail, heading up to Beaver Lake and Turquoise Lake.
Also beautiful spots.
And then there's the Fancy Lake Trailhead, which has really quirky but potentially dangerous detail in the source notes.
The mapping inconsistency.
Yeah. Some maps apparently call it the Fancy Creek Trailhead instead of Fancy Lake.
Which sounds minor, but reading these maps accurately is vital. If you're coordinating a rescue or trying to find your way out, the difference between a lake and the creek that feeds it could be miles of impassable terrain.
It really highlights why you can't just blindly follow a single app.
No, absolutely not.
What about the Grouse Lake, West Grouse Creek, and Martin Creek trails?
Those take you through some incredibly dense, dynamic parts of the forest.
And for the main event, the Mount of the Holy Cross itself, the sources highlight the Half Moon Pass Trail.
Right, Half Moon Pass is the route, and the name itself highlights the topography. You have to navigate this curving, exposed ridge,
You're fully exposed to the elements way before you hit the summit.
which goes back to the risk management we talked about earlier.
Totally. The last few mentioned are the Two Hare Lakes Trail and the Cross Creek Trail leading to Treasure Vault Lake and Blodgett Lake.
Treasure Vault is another great topographical name.
Sounds like something out of a fantasy novel.
It does. It highlights the geography and the history of human interaction out there. A secluded alpine bowl that takes serious effort to reach. Reading these trail names isn't just a list. It's a map of the physical toll the land demands.
So synthesizing everything we've pulled from this deep dive today,
It's a lot to take in.
it is. We are looking at a 122,797-acre wilderness. It's got this massive magnetic pull, mostly from that 14,005-foot peak and the cross formation.
People will always want to see it from Notch Mountain.
But the stark reality is that this environment demands absolute respect. If you don't prepare for the altitude and the weather, you could end up in a really grim situation.
And my final insight on this is just that knowledge is only valuable when it's applied.
Right.
Knowing the names of the trails, like Half Moon Pass or Dead Dog, that's great for trivia, but knowing how to actually respect the wilderness, knowing how to pack for emergency conditions, that is what brings you home safely.
Which leaves us with a lingering question for you to mull over as we wrap up.
I think this is the most important takeaway.
When we look at a map covered in hundreds of protected areas and miles of trails, we often just see a playground. We see recreation.
Because it's designated as a park or wilderness area.
Exactly. But considering the chilling history of those who wandered into the Holy Cross wilderness unprepared, how might shifting our mindset from conquering nature to surviving as a guest in its home fundamentally change the way we pack our bags and take our very first step onto the trail.
It changes everything. You stop packing for the hike you want and start packing for the wilderness you're actually entering.
Something to really think about before your next adventure. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time.